Hello, testing, testing.
Hi.
I'm not talking to you, Kenzie. Alright, hey dudes. Um, there's not really a format for this video. I just wanted to talk some Gatekeeper strategy. I've been looking at these stats all day, and I wanted to go over some things. So, like, one question that I feel like I always battle between I have with myself is whether or not, like, how much Gatekeeper is an RNG game. And it's kind of hard to tell because clearly, like obviously you can factor in probability, which takes away from the randomness, but obviously at the same time it's a battle royale, so it is a random, like it's random at nature, like in its own nature there is randomness. Now, like, potentially, like, we played 2v2s and like that's gotten rid of the randomness, but overall it is a dice rolling game. So the best you can get as far as like strategy goes is probability, like calculating your odds. So kind of the best like way to like understand the game as far as like how do you get good at it, the only way to truly know like if your strategies make a difference is kind of playing like over time. So we have these stat sheets right here, and the stat sheets give us all kinds of stats: the amount of games you played, kills you get, the amount of times you captured the center, which like actually means that you became gatekeeper. After you capture the center, how many rotations total you've survived, your GK eliminations, fouls, wins. I'll go over everything, what it all means. But basically, I've calculated all this to just basically see like how good someone is. So first thing we have is we have our rankings. So here's our rankings for season 3. And the hope is that the best player is ranked the highest. So you get points for all these different reasons that we talk about: getting kills, capture, becoming gatekeeper, surviving, rotations. And now we have, if you eliminate the gatekeeper or get an assist on eliminating the gatekeeper, that both counts as a GK elimination. All of that gives you 1 point. Fouls is kind of a technical thing, and then if you win, you get 2 points. So over the season now, I think we started playing in like November, and now it is all the way in May. So what is that? November, December, January, February, March, April, May. It's been about a 6-month long season, and we'll probably go on to 7 months as we hold the last 2 games in June. So with all that being said, we have a pretty clear leaderboard of who is in the lead, and I feel like for the most part the people who played the most are the players who are in the top, So right here you can see Danny, me, Gabe, Lucas, Ethan, Andrew. That's the top 6 right there. So clearly playing the most has something to do with it. But then it's just a matter. But then when you go down, it's actually a little bit more interesting. So players who are probably a little bit more seasoned, Josh, let's see here, Amador, which I am not seeing. He is all the way down here. Amador. And Theo. Let's see, Theo. These are all players who have a good amount of experience, but they're not as high up. Adam's another example, but he hasn't played at all this season. But if you look at the actual stats, Amador with only, 2 games here in 2021, because this is the scoring sheet is for 2021. And then, so 3 games total is already top 10. Josh, being someone I think with only maybe 5 games or throughout this season, is also in top 10. And then, so you can see like the average, like most people have played 3 or 4 games. Like that's like this big bulk of people right here, and then you have the top 6 who all have more than that. Or I guess you could even say the top 8 because the top 8 is all 5 to 10. So then the question goes to say like if the game is whether or not the game is RNG, it kind of depends on how you. It kind of depends on how you look at like all the people with this amount of games. So if we are to look at this like this, let's see. Let's look at all the people with 3 to 4 games. Okay, so all 3 to 4 games. Okay. So all the people with 3 to 4 games, the people with the most points are Luke, Josh, Sawyer. Actually, let's see. Let's do 2 games as well. Okay. You can see Amador, Sawyer, Josh, Jeremy, Gibby. Alright. So basically, what you can kind of see is like, even though all the players have 3 games, Amador, Josh, Sawyer, and Jeremy all have some sort of prior experience with Gatekeeper, and they're all in the upper half of it. Gibby also has prior experience. So, I mean, just because you have prior experience doesn't necessarily mean you're good. Also depends who you're playing against. Gibby, his first game was against the top 6. So, when Gibby played, he wasn't able to score as many points as someone like Amador and Josh, who played against other people who didn't have very many points. So they ended up getting a very high scoring game since they were playing on the lower ranks. Same thing with Luke, someone who has literally never played before, was able to get 15 points strictly because he was playing against a bunch of girls who have never played before. Here, and then you can see here, like, pretty much everyone else on this list have never played before. So it's kind of like, you can kind of see, like, the skill level difference when it comes to, like, Josh and Amador. Sawyer, even though he's played before, isn't as new. He has played before, but like he doesn't really understand, or he coming to the season, it had been a while, probably a year or 2 since he had like played. So he's still at the top of this list, but it's not as strong. Jeremy, not as strong as say Josh or Amador, but it's still enough to show a result. Jeremy and Gibby both are low because they played against top 6. So then let's change it to the people who have over 5 games or more. Okay, so people with 5 games or more. To say who the most skilled is a challenging. It's a challenging endeavor because a couple things come into play. There's strategy, and then there's character picks, which also I guess goes into your strategy. So one of the things that makes it kind of tricky is like some people use the same strategy every time and it works. And I guess, for example, Ethan used to be by far probably the best player when we first started playing the game. And back then, the meta was to use red and blue. And the basic idea behind that was red, back then, was a little bit stronger. But in general, if you had red, you could survive the first rotation. And I think it's hard to tell, like from today's stats, it's kind of like the meta's changed, and I'll talk about that. But basically, Ethan used to be able to just attack a gate with a bonus 8-sided die that was given him by red, and then use blue to turn. And basically, if he got red first, then he could just take blue, and then he could just control the whole map. Back then, there wasn't too much you could do against it, or at least there hadn't been too much developed to do against it. No one really wanted to go for blue gate first because, other than me, because no one really understood how to use it. No one really, it's hard to understand like rotations and like the way the board works and stuff like that, which I'll probably get into in a second here. I always used blue, and I actually ended up overtaking Ethan in the finals, but overall blue and red were pretty much the strongest gates, and back then there was a lot of politics. So right now Danny's the number one player, and you can see his name here is highlighted like a dark gray. It's because he uses a death gate like a primary death gate character. And by that I mean like his first bonus is on the black gate or death gate. And back in the first season, that never would have done anything good because we did a lot of politics. We used a lot of politics in the way we strategized simply because we didn't really understand the mechanics of the game that we had created. So when we were playing the game, if you killed someone, a lot of times you're just like, okay, well now we're going to kill you. And a lot of it was just choice. There wasn't a lot of strategy of why am I going to attack you. Nowadays, there's a little bit more strategy to why you would want to kill somebody. With that being said, there is still a clear like defining. Well, maybe it's not clear. There are still a couple of strategies that hold, I guess, dominance over the other strategies for this season. So here, let's change this to. Right now we have 8 players. No, actually, let's just keep it with the top 8. Okay, let's keep it with the top 8. As I mentioned at the beginning of the season, in the first season of Gatekeeper, Red and Blue Gate was the most powerful strategy. So going to the beginning of the year, Red Gate was the most powerful strategy, and to an extent, it still kind of is, but we'll get into that. So Andrew plays a multicolored character. He plays he plays the Eldarian, and the Eldarian the way Andrew plays is he camps on the Restoration Gate. So let me actually pull up. Let's pull up a board template so we can more accurately describe this. Okay. So So the way we started out playing this season was very similar to how most seasons start out. And the reason people like Red Gate is simply because when you become Gatekeeper and everyone's attacking you, you have the highest odds of survival during the first rotation if you have the Red Gate, because the Red Gate does the most damage to you. And it's really that simple. So it's kind of like in your head, the simple thought is, oh, if I just have Red Gate and Black Gate, then I can very easily win the game because then nobody can stop me. Nobody can stop me once I have the center. Interestingly enough, nobody ever really goes for both Red and Black Gate. It doesn't really seem to ever happen. Maybe that needs to be pushed a little bit more, but at first, people just go for Red, and then they try to get as many other gates as they can, maybe 2, maybe 3, and they go for center. There's a couple of reasons why this strategy is not perfect. The first reason why, and actually the biggest reason why, and the only reason I'll mention right now, is that the Red Gate's heavily contested. So if you have the Red Gate, and you're trying to hold on to the Red Gate and capture other gates so you can take the center, well, chances are you're going to lose Red or another gate in the process, because Red is, like I said, it's a very popular gate to go for. It just is the easiest strategy. It makes the most intuitive. It makes the most sense. So of course everyone's going to go for it. And hold on, let me change the stat that I focus on here. You can see both Lucas and Ethan have some of the, out of the top 6, have some of the highest points per game stat. That means they're getting, let's see here, 2.46. No, wait, that's not the right one. 1.5 and 2.6. Actually, no, sorry, that's Drew. It's 2.5 and 1.5. So red, it seems like the people in the upper half of the top 8, there's 2 reds, which is significant. It does make for easier captures of the center. That also, and it helps you get kills and weaken your opponents. Okay, so this season, the strategy that dethroned the red gate strategy is the green gate strategy, the green gate camp, which beforehand, this is a strategy that was only really used back in season 1. Season 2, no one even used it. But season 3, or season 1, people used it, and now season 3, Andrew kind of popularized it by playing Eldarian, and he would get green gate right off the bat, and he would camp there the whole game, which basically means you can't kill him. So he can't die, so he's going to be in the game the whole time. And then nobody really wants green because it doesn't really help you capture the center, at least not right away. And that's kind of the key, is that it's a long haul strategy. You have to be patient. Luckily, it's not a heavily contested gate like red, so you can kind of do a long haul strategy, not necessarily very unlike the way the red gate functions, in which you can't do any long haul strategies. So anyway, Andrew, what he would do is he'd sit at the green gate, and then eventually his health would hit 30. And what he would do is he would hold off, and he would wait to hit 30 till someone with the red gate inevitably took center. So once you take center and you become gatekeeper, if you hit 30 with the restoration gate, then of course you get a free outer gate, which means you can take the red gate for free. Or any other gate you want, depending on the situation. But, as I said before, the red gate is kind of the gate that you need to survive in endgame. That is until what happens next. So anyway, so we have the green gate, and then people start... First Andrew starts doing it, and then you can see... Then Drew kind of takes the strategy, and he starts... So you can see Drew has the highest points per game. He has very low kills, as you can see, because he plays this green gate strategy. But he plays with 2 captures. Let's see. He has a very high... it seems like he has 2 center captures with 5 rotations. It seems like the main thing here with green is that we're able to increase the longevity. So if you capture green, and I'm not sure exactly what happened in these games, but if you are the second gatekeeper and you capture green, get your health up to 30, take red, then you're pretty much a shoo-in for victory. Because no one can stop you. You have red and green. Nobody can kill you. That's the first thing. You're completely safe from being killed. And then nobody can... But if you become gatekeeper, you can pretty much win instantly because you only have to defend against black and blue. And you get health every rotation. So it's kind of like, if you have red and green, well then that's a big deal. So the problem... So here comes the problem with this strategy. So this strategy was pretty much dominant, and people were saying that this was the ultimate strategy, this is OP, this is what you need to go for. But then this strategy kind of got dethroned. And it got dethroned by very interesting strategy that I came up with. And this strategy's been around, but it's been underused just, I think, because of the way the mechanic functions. So basically, at this point, the problem is that people with green gate were waiting too long to become gatekeeper. So, and the reason they were able to succeed is because people who use red generally try to capture at least one other gate before they take center. And people who have green just wait for the person who has red to take center and then become gatekeeper, and then they be... So that extra time that it takes red to become gatekeeper helps them. So if you factor in time, there's another way you can become gatekeeper that actually eliminates or makes it hard for green because they won't be able to get enough health in time. And that is, if you take blue gate and you get your stockade and you turn the board so that whoever has red is next to you. So say I'm right here, I'm playing right here. Or I'm playing, say, right here at this corner. I take blue. Right? I turn the board so the person who's right here can attack red. So this is actually perfect. So they captured red. And part of it is kind of not necessarily luck, but you kind of have to like plan out your strategy. Like, okay, the person next to me is going to go for red. They're using a red card. So they're going for red. So I know that I should go for blue this game. Or I got blue this game. Someone else has red. I need to turn the board and give them make red an easy target from the person next to me. So you can kind of fake a strategy or fake a relationship or team like alliance thing. So like, hey, I'm gonna help you get red, but really like it's no good. Like you don't want to help them get red. So what you do is with blue is you get them to have red, and then you use stockades. And there's two ways to do that. So obviously you can 50-50 your turn on the Elden Tower, or you can go for a dragon. And when you get those things, one good way to do it is you get a dragon and you hold on to it, and you hold on to the what's it called? It would be called the Conjure Stockade Dragon, the black dragon. Obviously, I don't know why that was so hard for me to remember. But basically, you just turn the board, you hold, and that should be really easy for you to capture. So say this. If you can have a perfect game like this. First turn, you capture blue gate. Second turn, you turn the board, you attack a lane shield, and you get the Conjure Stockade. Now, if you have a bonus on any lane shield, you have at least 2/3 chance. If you have a +2 bonus on the lane shield you're attacking, then you have a 5 out of 6 chance that you're going to get the lane shield. So and nobody usually takes the Conjure Stockade Dragon right away, because most of the time people take that dragon, they turn it in right away so they can have the stockade. Usually because they only go for it if they're no help. But anyway, in this strategy, what you do is you take the blue, then you get the dragon, right? And there's two things that can happen here. When you first take blue, you'll have a stockade. So immediately, you'll kind of become a target. People want to get rid of your stockade. So if that happens, then you can, depending on whether or not that happens, you can change your strategy. Yes, you can. You have something to say? Okay. So depending on whether or not that happens, you can change strategy. So what I did in a couple of games, and I've changed my strategy since this became meta. So I don't have the results to show for it, but I saw a bunch of players do this. Essentially, you hold on to the dragon. You're about to become. It becomes your third turn. Now you attack center, and one thing that happens a lot of times is person who's playing green will attack center early and bait red player to take it early, because chances are you don't win, but you're the only player who could win. So it's like it makes it tempting for red player to go for the gamble. So anyway, like I said, what you want to do by the third turn is be attacking center. Perhaps you have a chance to capture it, but also perhaps you don't. So worst case scenario, it takes you 2 turns to become Gatekeeper. It takes you 2 turns. So, or actually 3 turns would be worst case scenario. But you attack it once, and then you attack it again. At this point, you should be able to have it on your 4th turn. You could have it on your 3rd turn, depending on whether or not green has baited. But just keeping in mind that red is to your right. Like the red player's to your right. You're right here, red is right here, and then you have that Conjure Stockade Dragon. So right before you take it, you turn in the Conjure Stockade Dragon, you get the stockade, and then you attack center and become Gatekeeper. When you do that, you set up the person to your right is then goes. You block the double damage attack, and then you're guaranteed to survive the first rotation. So first rotation, that means you get hit with the 12, you get hit with the 6. And because you're only 4 turns in, the person who has green only has, well, I mean, they could potentially have 22 health. But that means that they're not getting enough. If they're attacked even once, then they won't be able to reach 30. And if you do it in 3 turns, then they definitely won't be able to reach 30. Of course, there are some strategies to like go around that, but that is like something to consider. So anyway, you take blue, you have the stockade, you block red, you just survive the green and black onslaught. Then, on your next turn, you have to or you have to set up your defenses. So obviously, you block red with a lane shield. Then you attack green, not black. You attack green. And the reason why is because black and green, on average, are going to do like 6, 8, about 10 damage to you. So they're going to take half your health. So while black could take another half your health, green will give, not only if you are already below 10, it'll take you to 13 if you capture it, but then on top of that, it prevents someone from hitting 30 and then taking the red gate or taking the black and getting an extra attack on you for free. So you have to take green. Something that a lot of people don't really think about. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing that you do is well, I suppose that's all you do first turn. So then, assuming you get it, because you might not get it, and depending on how you roll, maybe you get lucky, maybe you could place 2 lane shields. If you get 2 lane shields, obviously black, block red and black. But if you don't get 2 lane shields, just block red, and try to attack green no matter what. You go around again, another rotation. You have to block. You're gonna have to spend another red lane shield. Now you might think to yourself at this point, well, I need to attack black because now I'm below a certain, like, I don't know, maybe you say you only have 5 health after 2 rotations. Maybe you have 2 health, which is possible. No, that's exactly why you should attack green, because green will take you to 13, and there's no way black can stop you, and then you just put a green lane shield on red so that if they attack, they give you health. So this strategy is pretty much like there's odds that go into it. Of course, if people get lucky trait rolls, maybe you roll 6, perhaps you miss the actual center gate right after you turn in your dragon. There are things that like go into it, but overall, you can pull that strategy off pretty well. Now, people were using the strategy in different ways. But I think the main part of it that's stuck around is I know the person next to me has a powerful gate, so I'm going to use the stockade dragon or go for an Eldman tower. Maybe if you don't have the dragon and you're just trying to get it, maybe it's a perfect opportunity, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of the strategy that took over for a couple of the sessions that were played. And then it wasn't like everyone was using it, but it destroyed the whole green and red meta because, like I said, because green didn't have enough time anymore, and also because people at that time were using Blackgate to like poison someone who had a ton of health. So it used to be pretty customary to if someone had 10 health or someone had 6 health, that you would attack them, and you would try to get people out of the game. Well, the problem is you're just setting other people up. So here's we go into another reason. This is basically another reason why the green and red gate strategy wouldn't work. Basically, along with the fact that it takes a while to set up for green, it's pretty safe, but it just takes a long time. But alongside of that, people who used to do Blackgate, we used to just attack, or red, whenever you do damage to someone in general. Whenever you deal damage to someone, if you attack someone, we used to just attack someone with like 10 health. And we used to just randomly, like it used to be politics as we used to say. But a couple things changed. So now, if someone's 2-shot, which basically means that you have 6 health, chances that you survive 2 rotations is very low. It's very low. And if you put someone at 2 shot, it's not really possible for you to finish it. Like you could, but if someone's 2 shot, there's too many ways when the as the dice goes around the table and people have their turns. There's too many ways that person can get killed. So it's pretty much kind of like a unspoken rule that you don't attack someone who has 9 health. You don't want to put someone down to 6. You don't want to do that. So that meta changed. And instead what we do is we attack the person who is green so they can't win. But then right then is what, like you'd say, well, red is going to win, but then it kind of became a tug of war between red and blue. So then, like I said, this blue strategy came in. There were plenty of games for me, and it would basically come down to a 50-50. Either I'm going to take the center and use my lane shield, or my stockade, to block red from attacking me, or I'm going to miss center because I didn't roll high enough, and then red's going to have it. The difference is that red can't reliably win 3 rotations because he doesn't have a stockade. But then that was kind of what changed. People who had blue, well, we had a stockade already, but then people with red were just like, well, why don't I just go for a stockade? Right? Because you're like, there's not necessarily a reason why the person with red couldn't use a stockade. Well, that is true, but the difference is that when you have blue, you can control the board. So that means you can basically take lane shields whenever you want, and you get dragons whenever you want. And also, you get a stockade when you first capture the gate. So you kind of have like 2 options. So while the strategy is more frequently possible with blue, the ultimate strat, if you're lucky, is to take red and then block black's attack. It's not really like you can control it. It's RNG. At that point, it's really kind of just luck and RNG. But if you can pull it off, that beats blue for sure. But as we mentioned, if you are blue, you can actually prevent that from happening. So overall, it just takes skill. So that's just kind of where, if you look at points per game right now, me and Gabe are the lowest. And we're both blue players. We both play characters that have a focus on blue. So we clearly have the lowest points per game. But you can also see that I have captured the center gate many times. I just have not survived at all. And so that's not good. If I captured the center 5 times, and only 3 out of those 5 times I even made it around the center, around the board once. 3 out of 5 times I've survived a rotation. That's not very good. But in my defense, I didn't necessarily, during these games, I didn't necessarily use this strategy. But I'm just saying. Anyway, okay. So that was a strategy, use blue. So then what happened? Where are we now? The big thing that changed from over the 2021 half of the season is that people started using dragons more heavily. So we came up with a tactic called the DDTR, or the DDT, the double dragon turn-in. And essentially, what we realize is, and we've always done this, but we never really done it on purpose. Basically, what we found out is that you can turn in a dragon twice on purpose. So you get say you have this is the most popular use for it. Say you take a dragon, and you say it's the deal 3 damage dragon. Well, at the beginning of your turn, if you set yourself up right, you can turn in the dragon and deal 3 damage to someone, and then you can attack another lane shield that's in front of you, get the same dragon, and turn it again on your turn, doing a total of 6 damage to someone. So you might sound like, well, that's kind of like, what is that? How is that significant? Well, number one, you can kill someone who's 2 shot in 1 turn with pretty much no RNG. You set it up. Like I said, if you set it up correctly, you'll have a 5 out of 6 chance of taking the lane shield, because all you have to do is roll 2. So it's not hard to do. It doesn't take any luck. So you could pretty much set up any 2 shot you want. Well, while this was realized, there's a couple implications. The first thing that's implicated was that when we realized that we could do this, people started hoarding the or hoarding the red dragon in general. People started holding on to it, which meant that people who had 6 health were no longer safe, ever. So beforehand, when it was like you never want to put someone in a 2-shot, if someone has the red dragon, you never want to put someone at 3-shot. Because because it only takes 1 hit for someone to get 2-shot. And there's a couple advantages and disadvantages here. So if someone has 9 health, depending on your character, there's certain ways you can take them all the way down to 0 from 9. Some characters could do 10. It just depends. It also depends on if you capture a gate that turn or not. But with the already discussed strategy of turning the dragon in twice, before you do that, you can go for the Element Tower. Now, of course, obviously the Element Tower is 50-50, but there's a difference. If someone is 2-shot and you go for the 50-50 to deal 3 damage, then all you're doing is setting someone else up to use it against that person, which would bring them down and then essentially make them killable. Now, if someone, at this point, as I already mentioned, if you have the double turn in dragon, you can, now that is a strategy, nobody even really does that, because if someone has the dragon, then 100%, if you're 2-shot, you're going to die. There's no reason you wouldn't die. You're set up. You can pretty much do it with no RNG, kill someone. Now, if someone has 9 health, it changes. Because if you have 9 health, if someone has 9 health, and you're hoarding the red dragon, and you're waiting for someone to get dropped to low so you can pounce. If someone has 9 health, you can do you can do the Element Tower for deal 3 damage, and take them down to 6, and then you have the chance right there to instantly kill them. The problem is that then you might say, well, what if you miss the Element Tower? Well, it's not an issue anymore, because beforehand, say everyone has 9 health. Say everyone has 9 health. Say everyone, but 4 people have below 9 health. They all have 9 health, but nobody's 2-shot. Well, beforehand, if you miss the Element Tower, the worst someone can do is put you down to 2-shot. But like I said, that only helps you. So if you go for the deal 3 damage Element Tower, and then and you miss it, and someone else attacks someone, puts them down to 2-shot, if that person's still 2-shot by the time it gets to you, you get the kill. You get the kill for free, because you have the dragon and you're hoarding it. Now, what if you do get it? Well, you get a free kill. So there's basically a 50-50 chance that you'll either get the kill or you get the kill next turn. So there's no way that you won't get the kill. Unless that person, of course, gets lucky, they take defensive maneuvers. There's obviously ways to get around it. But there's not really a disadvantage for going for the Element Tower if you want to get a kill. Going for a kill, if you have a 50-50 chance of getting a kill on your turn, and it doesn't hurt you at all, then you might as well do it. Especially if you already have a gate or something like that. So anyway, that's kind of the main strategy. So what that did a couple of things to the meta. Number one, it kind of made blue gate irrelevant, in the sense that if you go for blue, well, obviously you can control you can control the board and go for dragons and stuff like that, which is nice. But beforehand, the strategy was to go for the stockades. Well, now the strategy is just kill the person who has red gate, because you don't need a stockade to block the person with red, because you already have a dragon to kill them, and then you can take both gates, and you can take it for free without even battling for it. So this means now that the person with red is #1 target, and basically you can just, since it's already now meta to attack the person with the most health, you don't even have to worry about the person with Restoration Gate long term. You can just wait for the person with red gate to drop below 10, basically 3-shot him in 1 turn, take their gate, then you have 2 gates, and you're basically completely safe to just attack center and win the game. Well, that strategy, which that strategy basically supersedes the other strategy of just going for a stockade. Now, once again, you may say like, okay, well, how come, like, isn't it easier though if you just had blue? Like, wouldn't there be a lot of people going for this dragon? Yeah. It is true. It is hard to. It's relatively difficult to pull this strategy off when everyone wants the red, like the deal 3 damage dragon, no matter what gate they have. So basically, 2 things happen. That would technically make the blue gate strategy where you use the blue stockade strategy, it would basically make that useful again. But the problem is that strategy's been countered too. And this is where we enter the new meta. Because right now, we have these competing metas. We have, do you use the blue gate with stockades? Or do you go for kills with the dragons and use the DDTR? Or the DDT, right? And of course, may I mention that you can use the DDT with a gain 3 health dragon, and you could basically, if you're hoarding that if you have the green gate and you have the DDT gain 3 health, you can get yourself to 30 from 24 health, or actually from 23 health. So there's not, or am I even saying that right? From 21 health, you can get all the way to 30 in one turn if you have the gain 3 health dragon. So it actually buffed green gate as well. So there's 2 metas, two counter metas that people use to prevent these things from happening. So number 1, as I mentioned, people attack whoever has the most health, being restoration gate, so that doesn't happen. Keep them below 20 is one of the things that we try to do. The other things, another thing that's going on is nobody attacks someone to make someone. People basically try to stay above 10 health. Nobody attacks someone to put someone below 9 unless you can get the kill. Unless you have the dragon already. So it's kind of something that you have to watch out for. Know that someone's holding onto the deal 3 damage red dragon, and know that your health is below 8, and know that you have to get above 10 before it's their turn. Then there's that, and then the last thing is, because of the stockade strategy, the easiest way to defend it, and it's extremely easy, is the person who captures black always poisons whoever captures blue. And it's that simple. Because then they can't use stockades. And if they have if you're smart enough to capture the dragon that poisons, then you can just use it on the person who's about to become gatekeeper who has blue. So that actually completely counteracts the whole stockade strategy completely. Which brings us to the new part of the meta right now, which is Blackgate. So one thing I did not realize was that Danny is dominating with the Blackgate. Out of all the people with 13 games, he has 11 kills. He has 5 center captures, 7 rotations survived. Hold on, look at the points. Look at the total point difference. He has 32. That's more than me and Gabe have combined, right? Am I wrong? 30, 20. Yeah, 29. Yeah, 29. No, not 29. I mean, 39. Okay, so no, it's not. So it's not more. It's not more, but it's more than both of us, and it's a lot more. So it's more than double of what Gabe has, and then it's still a lot more than what I have. So if you keep that in mind, how does he have so many more points? Well, number one, it's kills. So Blackgate, obviously, you poison someone, which prevents this. Then you can steal health, which means you don't die. Like, similar to Green Gate, you don't die. And then, whereas Blue and Red Gate, you can have a chance of dying. Because, especially with Blue, because you're always being poisoned. And Red, you really don't have any sort of defense. In Green, is an uncontested gate that always gives you 3 health every turn. So you're basically never going to die if you have green. And then black, you're not going to die either. And it's not as heavily contested as red. So making black almost a perfect gate to go for. Now you don't have the strategic bonuses that you get from blue, but if you have black, then you don't need... If you have black, you don't need as much strategy, since you don't, like, you can potentially survive a whole rotation with just black, because the most, let's see, on average, they're going to do about 18 damage to you. On average, they're not going to kill you. If you have black, on average, all 3 gates attacking you will not kill you. Most times. Not every time, but you could survive. And then if you do survive, then you have the potential. Now, obviously, with, again, if you look at the people, look at everyone here. Let's see. Let's look at these stats right here. This is GK efficiency. So this tells us how many rotations someone survives when they become Gatekeeper. So Lucas survives an average of 2.25 rotations every turn. Lucas is a whole other thing that we'll talk about in a second. But like, as you can see, Mason and Danny are both in the top 4. And they basically, Mason survives at least 2 rotations. It seems like every single time he becomes Gatekeeper. And then Danny survives about 1.5. About 1.5. Not perfect. But he wins 60% of the time that he becomes Gatekeeper. So what does that tell you? It tells me a couple things. Number one, when you kill 11 people in 13 matches, people are not, number one, I don't think there's enough people to actually stop him from winning when he becomes Gatekeeper on the battlefield left, because he kills them. That's the first thing. And the second thing, and I think the most significant thing, is that he has captured the center 5 times. And compared to my 3 rotations survived, he has 7. So I think that there is something significant with the black gate. So as we just said, the black gate, you're not being attacked by red. Alright? Green and blue, you're not being attacked by your 12 damage. You only have to worry about red. And green or blue are not necessarily threats. You can survive the first rotation. On top of that, the person who goes for blue or red has a higher chance of being killed in the beginning, because this person has no defenses and this person gets poisoned by default. So that's the thing. And then this person, assuming that people are playing according to the way the meta is being played now, is never going to reach 30 health to take your gate. So with all that in mind, then you could think to yourself, if you capture the gate, the center gate, if you're the second Gatekeeper, you pretty much are going to win the game. Because you'll survive the first rotation, and if you survive the first, you'll probably survive the second. And for most people, if you survive the first, that's what happens, you survive the second. But then, after the second, you'll die if you're not properly prepared. So for Black Gate, the question is how do you use skill and strategy? Like, what is the strategy? What is the setup to take it? What is the setup to win? So first off, it's not contested. Nobody really goes for it right now, at all. And because nobody goes for it, it's pretty much guaranteed that you get it. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, once you have it, if you're second Gatekeeper, your chances of winning skyrockets. Because like I said, you probably won't win third one. You'll probably survive the first rotation, but you probably won't win. But you do have a good chance of winning. I think technically Danny doesn't have as high of a win percentage. What is his win percentage? He doesn't have as high of a win percentage as Lucas, because red, when captured first rotation, let's say look like he has 4 center captures and then 9 rotations survived. Like that's a 75% win rate as Gatekeeper. Essentially, what that tells you is that if you capture center with red gate, you win the game much easier than if you win it capture with black. But that does mean that black is a close second. And here you can kind of see what's going on. So okay, so I think one of the things that happens is you can see Drew here is in third for, what is the stat that I'm using right now? I think I'm going off of win percentage, right? Yeah, I am. So Drew, since he has green, he always becomes second gatekeeper. And because in the way he becomes center gatekeeper is by using the green health boost. Danny basically either swoops in during that whole process of him like killing the gatekeeper, and then he just wins on the second. Because one thing that happens is if you take green and you use the green gate to get red, and then it's the second gatekeeper, you're trying to take center. If black takes it, he only has to defend against one attack from your gate. So if there's only two people that have gates, one person owns red and green, one person owns blue, and you own black, you win if you become gatekeeper second rotation. So that's one way I think Danny is winning, or one way black gate is strong. Another way I think black gate is strong, if you combine some of the other strategies we talked about. If you use the stockade dragon strat from blue, you don't have the control, but if you have the opportunity to take that dragon, then there's no one who can poison you, especially if you take the poison dragon too. So there are all kind of ways that you can sort of keep yourself from. You can kind of use some of the other strategies that we use in the other gates to kind of win. I think the biggest thing here is the kills. I think this is like. I mean, this really has to be the most significant part. Okay, so if you have black, there's a couple things with during gatekeeper phase that I think could put you over the edge. So some of these kills that Danny has are gatekeeper kills. So you can also see he has 3 GKEs, which is pretty high. That's GK eliminations, right? That's the second most. Not as many as Gabe. That's the second most. So basically, if Gabe is killing the person who's gatekeeper a lot, what that tells you is that it's basically that because the black gate does 12 damage, can do up to 12 damage, it just makes you very likely to kill the gatekeeper. And if you kill the gatekeeper, of course you get all his stuff. So if you kill all his stuff, if you take all his stuff, then that makes you very much more likely to win the game, especially if that gatekeeper was strong. He had 3 gates, but potentially he only has 1 gate. You enter the second gatekeeper phase with a better repertoire, a better armory. And the person who... And if say you have red, like we said, most times if someone takes center first rotation, they're going to have red because that's the safest to do it with. Now if you don't have red, you might have blue. You might not get the kill, but it's not as big of a deal because it's just blue. You're not losing anything super strong in the keeper phase. Like blue doesn't help you too much in the keeper phase once you're gatekeeper. So basically, 9 times out of 10, when someone with red captures center, let's look at center captures. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Lucas and Ethan both take it. Let's put all the players back in. Let's see. Games. Center captures. CC per game. Let's do that one instead. Okay, so if you look at center captures per game, you got 3 people who are all red players in the top 10. And I think that just goes to show you that... Yeah, Lucas right there. I think that just goes to show you that people capture the center with red, and if you capture it first, you're most likely to survive. And then if you take those things into consideration, you might win more often, as Lucas seems to win more often than Danny. But the times you don't win are going to be times that whoever owns Blackgate will win. So the question is here. I think we've kind of been going about the strategies wrong. Bluegate is the best at controlling your surroundings and giving yourself taking away the randomness. Taking away the randomness. Redgate, you kind of have to just seize the opportunities you have of like which gates do I have a high percentage of taking right now. How is the board turned in a way that I can take to my advantage? It's very simple. Very simple, but you just calculate, maybe go for red, green, or just go center this turn. Then green gate is you play long haul. But black gate is similar to red in that you take advantage of the opportunities that come to you. But the difference is you are actively seeking to get kills. And you have a high, well, it's two things. Number one, you have the highest chance of becoming Gatekeeper second, and you have the tools to actively seek kills. So as we talked about, we have the DDT. A lot of times, I see Danny go for the DDT. He always takes a lane shield, gets the deal 3 damage dragon, hold on to it. When you capture black, you can poison someone. Well, if you poison someone who has 10 health or 12 health, likely they'll drop to 9. Then they're in kill range. Or say they're at 10. You can drop them to a 2-shot, which is an insta-kill if you have the deal 3 damage dragon. You could steal 2 health from someone, which, as we mentioned now, is actually safer than dealing 3 damage to someone like you would do if you had the red gate, because you can steal 2 from them and then they're still 3-shot for you, which is basically a 50-50 if you have the red dragon. So you don't have the red dragon, and this is what this is where it comes, where the wait for your opportunity comes into play. If you don't have red dragon, then you basically just wait until the first gatekeeper phase, and you will most likely get the kill because you do the most damage. In which case, you will double your gates just by waiting. And since your gate is uncontested, you can generally win. So, I think after kind of analyzing the current meta, what's going on, I think the only thing that's really contested this is the DDTRs. Because if you are, say you have the blue gate, then you can take those dragons, but it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really turn into the whole stockade thing since you get poisoned so easily. But what happens is you go and you try to basically get kills as a blue gate player. So essentially, there's kind of a battle between the black gate and the blue gate player trying to kill someone. But the blue gate player, and here's I think where black gate gets the edge, blue gate player can't really kill black gate player because the black gate player steals health when he first captures. So he's always going to be above the threshold of having 9 health. He's going to have probably 12. So since he'll have 12, and since you probably get poisoned, chances are, if you're black gate, you kill the person who has blue gate. So your goal as a blue gate player should be to lock down blue gate or black gate and to make sure you get black gate second before anyone else does. Because if you get killed by black gate, your game's over. And there's a couple ways, I'm sure there's a couple ways you can do this, but one way you could probably do it is wait till the person who has black gate has it, uses their bonuses, and then you take blue. Because then you could take your stockades, but at this point you risk them getting the red dragon. So there's quite a balance or a battle between blue gate and black gate players that we didn't even really realize was going on. So I think that's something that probably needs to be paid attention to in the next match. We'll watch players who have black gate and see exactly what they're doing to win. That way we can prevent it and defeat them. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I could say about the topic as far as black gate versus blue goes. I think blue. I think that the way to. It's kind of hard to say how we would defeat this strategy, though, because it's kind of a lurker strategy. You can't necessarily prevent. Like, nobody really does it on purpose. Nobody thinks to themselves, like, oh. I think what we need to do is you need to take black gate. I think if you're red, I think this is basically what will need to happen. If you have red gate and you're losing to someone who's on black, take black and then take center. That's just 100% what you need to do. When you capture black, poison blue. Poison blue immediately. Now, since red will probably be under contestment if that's not something that you're able to do, because you say you lose red before you can take black. Blue also needs to go for black. Because, and when I say go for black, I mean they need to. There's two things they need. Number one, they need to take the deal 3 damage dragon before black takes it. Then they have to save it. They can't use it. Because if they use it, then black has the opportunity to take it, and then if black gets it, blue's dead. And if and then on top of that, one unintentional consequence is that if you have blue, you can't really go for the stockade strategy because you have to waste the turn going for the deal 3 damage dragon, which you'll be dead before you can even get it because people are damaging you. One thing that I've been doing to get around this is I don't even sit on the gate so people don't see me as a threat. And that is a strategy that you can use. If you don't sit on your gate, people will just take the gate and people won't really care to kill you. The problem is then you have to survive and make an end game play. You can't become gatekeeper, you can't win if you won't be able to become the first gatekeeper and win if you don't have a gate or you're not sitting on gates. There's a strategy that we started using again recently called I think it's just the Lazy Susan. The Lazy Susan. Basically, what you do is you get 3 dragons, which takes you probably a good 5 turns. Then at this point, we're in the gatekeeper phase, and you have 3 dragons, and you use one, and then you get another one, and then you use one, and then you get another one. So every turn, you're getting a stockade, or you're getting 3 damage, or you're getting 3 health. So every single turn. So then you start to become really strong. You can do a DDTR, kill someone. You basically can do up to 3 different DDTRs at any moment in time, and then you are always ready to get a last hit on someone. You're always ready to give yourself a stockade if you're about to go into Gatekeeper, and you're always ready to gain health if you need to hit 30 for that DDTR strategy. And then of course you can Dragon Roll, which is another big deal. And I would recommend don't use Dragon Roll until the very end of the game. Not last rotation, but the end of the game, as in wait till after the first Gatekeeper, then get yourself some free gates after that whole fiasco has happened, and then you can win after second rotation, after the first Gatekeeper, and then you can basically become second Gatekeeper and most likely win off of it. So that's kind of the strategy I've been using. But it does put a target on your back because people can see that you're collecting dragons, and they know that if they kill you, they can take all your dragons. So that's another thing. So I recommend if you take the strategy of playing a dragon hunter, either get the deal 3 damage dragon so you can get a kill and get yourself an extra 10 health, or if it's too late, just grab the +3 health dragon, and then you can keep yourself up if you need to. And that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much it for this video. This in-depth strategy discussion. I think that in the future, dragon hunting, I think will still be pretty meta. I think dragon hunting will still be pretty meta because you have too many options. I think Blackgate will start becoming a more popular gate, which will start to hurt its relevance. And I think the more popular blue gets, or black gets, the more popular or the stronger red will get. So if more people go for black, chances are if you're a red player, you'll probably start winning. Now that being said, you also might just start dying. Blue gate players, the more popular black is, the more you lose, because the more you're going to get killed. And if you're losing, green gate has honestly, green gate's probably the safest in the coming meta. People will attack you. I think the strongest defensive meta you could probably use. I think here's the 3 strongest strategies you could use for as we entered the tournament season, the last tournament. First strategy will be Lazy Susan Dragons, or just holding on. Yeah, basically just holding on to 3 dragons or as many dragons as you can in the beginning of the game, and just following opportunities as they come so that you can get a lead. Don't use the stockade strat unless you see. Well, actually, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna go skip the next. The next super strong strategy will be green gate once again. As we can see, Drew has been rising in the. Let's see here. He's been rising in the leaderboards at number 7, and a big part of that is the fact that he plays the green gates so well. So then there's green, and then I think, like as I said, well, okay, the only way you're not going to win is if people are attacking you throughout the game. So all you have to do is make sure you set up your. Well, you kind of just make sure. Honestly, you kind of want to capture the gain 3 health dragon early on and hold on to it if you have. And it's a pretty low priority dragon for most players, so you should hold on to it. And if you do that, then even the double dragon tournament player can't really, the Lazy Susan dragon player probably can't even do anything about it, other than take away a bunch of your health to stop you from doing your own DDT. But even then, that would kind of be a waste because usually the focus is going to be on whoever has red or whoever the gatekeeper is. So those would probably be 2 pretty strong strategies. And then the third strategy right now that I think is going to be strong is the one that I've been talking about here, the one that Danny's been using, and that is basically just hold on to black, defend it, and then become gatekeeper's second rotation. Just hold on to it. And that basically should be our strategy, is you bait someone to become a gatekeeper, take black, go for kills, get a kill so that your health goes up, right? You might make enemies, but your health will go up by 10. And then bait center, and then you take center, then basically, since you have the odds of killing gatekeeper once someone becomes them, then you will be the strongest player on the board once you kill them. And that's pretty much like a 50-50. And you have a 50-50 chance that you're going to kill the person, pretty much. So, yeah, I think those are the 3 strategies. Also, killing people reduces the amount of people you have to play against, which increases your odd in late game. So the more people you kill early game, the less people you have to deal with late game. So I think overall, well, a very basic strategy, it's not as hard as turning the board or turning the board to give people positions to take the gates you want. Like you would use blue to get the person next to you to have red, and you would use green, and you'd have to know when to bait red into taking it, and then if you have the dragons, you have to be careful not to spend them too quick or to use your dragon roll at the wrong time. There's a lot too. Yeah? Yeah. There's basically a lot to the yeah, I don't know. But definitely red is gonna be. I think red is definitely gonna be, while always is a like viable strategy. I don't think red is going to be the winner of the tournament at this point. I don't think it'll be the best strategy going in. I think if you're a new player, you can use it, but I think if you're the top ranked players, like once we get to the semifinals, I don't think red is going to be the one. Green might work, but green is almost a later game than black now. So blue players, I mean, blue players are screwed. There's not like you basically have to get off the gate and just go for dragons, and then because you can't survive. I mean, really, that's the biggest thing is survivability. If you have blue and green, that's a whole nother thing. But we're kind of talking about like if you have two gates, obviously, like you can do a lot more. If you have two of any gate, you can win the game, and like so, there's not really like a stipulation there. But if you just have blue by itself, like you have so much control of the board. You can do so much as far as like getting dragons, controlling who else could get dragons. You can control who can keep their gates by putting them in vulnerable positions. Like there's too much that you can do, but the one thing you can do is just survive because you don't have any sort of defense after you get poisoned. And it happened way too much to me where I was just getting poisoned and then dying. So it's almost, I think almost if you could find a card, if we could find a character who gains health, a blue and green, I think a blue and green character might be the only way to combat this meta. Is just character specific traits. Because if you don't have a blue and green character, then you're not going to be able to. Like, you need a character who naturally gains health, like, on your traits. So, I think that's basically it. Yeah, you go for black, bait center, then become second gatekeeper, go for kills. Or play long game with green, and just camp. Or play Lazy Susan with your dragons, and then you're basically just trying to 50-50 it with. You're basically just trying to just figure out what, like, you can basically do anything if you're using that strategy to win, whatever comes up, whatever's necessary. And yeah, like I said, now finally, yeah, that's pretty much everything. That would be everything I would have to talk about. I hope this discussion was useful for anyone who's playing in the tournament. Maybe if you want to if you want to think about this, I don't know. But yeah, these are the strategies that you should be using in the tournament. So awesome.